Oh, hi.
Well, hey there, everybody.
Ricky Bobby and Cal Naughton reminding you never to travel to Tijuana.
That is production value. That is Big10Network.com like production value from ScoopTalk. Inside the hall, Zachary, Osterman. I'm Hugh, Kellenberger. Dustin Pirak is off today. Hanging out somewhere in Pennsylvania. Probably mad at Richard Seymour. Yes. Zachary, the Hoosiers are 4-0.
They are.
They are 4-0. They defeated Evansville. An interesting game, overcame a 6-point halftime deficit and really came out firing in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this is the same story. Really good defense. I mean, it's not that the offense isn't good. It's just not as memorable as the defense when you go on a 22-0 run. When Indiana plays like that defensively, their defense keys everything.
Mm-hmm.
And as you've said before, as we've talked about before, it's an overall thing. You know, it's not one or two guys. You know, today I thought Maurice Creek played well against Colt Ryan. But overall, it's team defense, shutting down passing lanes, and really kind of having this ability to get opponents flustered very easily.
Yeah,
I mean, Evansville made a lot of its own mistakes.
Right, Colt Ryan was the guy. If Evansville was going to make this a game for all 40 minutes, they were going to pull off the comeback. They needed Colt Ryan. He's a 6'5" sophomore. He's from Batesville. He played AAU with Jordan Hulse and Bobby Capobianco. He's played in this arena I don't even know how many times with AAU. You know, he was the guy, and Maurice Creek did very well against him, but so did Jordan Hulse, and so did Jeremiah Rivers.
At one point, Pritchard, I think, was even
yeah, I mean, they used a lot of different guys, kept guys fresh on him. He only had one basket in the first half. I believe he finished with about 13, but those were garbage. Garbage time.
I mean, he didn't really start scoring at the way you'd expect him to. Given, I mean, he's a prolific scorer, and you wouldn't. He didn't start doing what you'd expect him to do until maybe the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game.
Right. Yeah, you know, Maurice Creek was a guy that really jumped out from the beginning of the second half. You know, he's a streaky guy. He made that 1 3, and suddenly 3 had gone in, and he'd been fouled on a fourth, and made all 3 free throws and got the lead. So, you know, it's kind of that process with Creek, but tonight was encouraging for him and for the team in the sense that he did get on a bit of a hot streak.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that the quickness is there yet to drive past people. Certainly, the vertical lift is still not there, and I don't know that in particular is going to come back at all this year because there was a whole offseason spent not working on his leg strength, and the mid-range jumper isn't there. But really, I think that having the 3-point, that's probably the key weapon to have back in your arsenal if you're Maurice Creek, because that was kind of, when you thought about a lot of his big shots last year, they were threes. And his big games last year were spurred on by huge 3-point shooting performances. Kentucky, North Carolina Central are two that come to mind. But to have that back and to have somebody who can consistently knock it down from back there, to sort of throw in with Jordan Hulse and Christian Watford makes this team. When you've also got Verdell Jones scoring inside, this team looks awfully challenging. I don't want to say good, but challenging.
Right. This is a team that other Big Ten teams will. You're right. It's a difficult team to game plan against because they do have weapons. Evansville obviously really wanted to shut Jordan Hulse down. Indiana used him a lot of the 2-guard tonight. Tried to get him in the corner for open threes, and he just couldn't get open because Evansville was making a concerted effort to always know where he is and not let him get free. But Maurice Creek scores 12 points and ends up with 19. Verdell Jones scores 13 in the first half when nobody else was really getting anything done offensively. Verdell did what he had to do. Watford ended up with a nice night. Pritchard gets 8. You know, so it's just a balanced overall kind of thing. Say hi to the people. That was J.D. Campbell, Media Relations. Guru. Extraordinaire somewhere. We'll figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a weird thing because on one hand you say, well, Indiana actually has all these weapons. I mean, you know, they're not going to be consistent every night. There are going to be nights, obviously, especially come the Big Ten, where it's not as good. But I don't know how many. Once you separate maybe the top 4 or 5 teams of the Big Ten, I don't know how many teams have as many guys as Indiana that could go for 18 a night. I mean,
Right.
you've got Verdell, you've got Watford, you've got Creek, you've potentially got Hulls if he gets hot.
Yeah, I mean, he's always capable of coming out and hitting 5 or 6 threes.
And to me, I think what I take away is that's kind of what separates Indiana right now from. They're kind of in
Middle
this
of the
gulf.
pack.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
kind of in this gulf between, like.
There's a clear top 3.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's
Right.
it's Ohio State, Michigan State,
Purdue,
Illinois,
but
Wisconsin.
Illinois has a lot of scorers. But I think the Texas game proved that Indiana may actually be tougher than them. Not to equate Evansville and Texas,
But
I think Indiana so far has responded to adversity better than Illinois has.
if Mike Davis doesn't figure things out, Illinois is not going very far.
I love Dana O'Neill's tweet about Myers Leonard. 7-footer that she could tell how tall he was because he was always standing at midcourt watching the game with her. Minnesota's obviously an incredibly talented team, beat North Carolina the other night, but you never know on a day-to-day basis who is active on their roster.
Yeah.
They seem to have off-the-court issues quite a bit.
They do. DeVoe Joseph,
Trevor Mbakwe, the infamous Royce White. They're kind of a question mark. Northwestern is Northwestern. So, yeah, if Indiana is going to rise above 8th place in the Big Ten, which most people picked them out before the season, it's going to be because they're balanced and they're tough and they play defense.
Yeah, the defense is the biggest thing. I mean, at the end of the day, I think this applies in most sports. Certainly any kind of back and forth sport, like basketball, football, soccer. A great defense will always keep you in the game, even when, much more so than a great offense will,
right.
Or an efficient offense or anything like that, because, again, you just get those moments tonight where it didn't feel like Indiana's offense was going crazy. I mean, certainly, I don't think we have seen the kind of offense that Tom Crean would love to run, that wide open, scoring at will, lots of transition buckets. As much as I think you've seen this concerted effort by teams to stop that, but when opponents get onto offense, there have just been these long stretches where they're just absolutely clueless.
There were the first 10 minutes tonight, or the second half tonight, I think was the closest Indiana has come offensively to running the other team out of the gym.
Yeah.
So just overwhelming the other team. Like Marty Simmons had to call a couple of timeouts because it was just clear his team was just in over its head.
Yeah.
And he had to do something. You didn't see that in the first 3 games. Indiana kind of had to, it was death by 1,000 paper cuts offense. So yeah, I think, but you're right. Defense was a big factor tonight. Tom Pritchard was really good. Career high 5 blocks.
And he played the whole second half with 3 fouls.
Right.
And did not commit another one.
Yeah. And he had 3 fouls in the first half, as did Bobby Capobianco, but I don't know how many of those fouls were really fouls. There was a lot of little stuff being called, especially in that first half.
There were some really weird illegal screens.
Yeah.
That's a rule that sometimes I think gets misapplied. And it was misapplied certainly both ways. I mean, Marty Simmons had beef on a couple calls.
Right. Yeah. Just overall, the game was kind of called ticky-tackly in that first half.
Yeah.
But Zach, we talked about it a little bit real quickly. Are fans entitled to kind of root against players or kind of jeer players, and like they have with Tom Pritchard?
I don't want to say they're entitled. I mean, they will. Judging by his tweets, I think Tom Pritchard understands that. Mm-hmm. It's not a good thing. I remember being a freshman when Sean Klein would get booed, and it's just kind of, my thing is, I understand the level of frustration, but at the same time, it's not like Tom Pritchard is trying to play poorly.
Right.
Certainly he comes out and he has a game like this and he reminds us that he's got a great up and under move. He moves really well on defense. And actually Tom Crean has kind of taken his quick feet and turned him into, I don't want to say the ideal post defender, but a valuable post defender in what Tom Crean tries to do because of all the help side defense and what Pritchard can bring there.
And what's interesting for me is because everything comes back to Tijon. Tijon was bad for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Worse than Tom Pritchard's ever been. But fans loved him.
Yeah.
And clearly, there were some reasons for that, but it it's interesting to watch how Tijon was so beloved for the mistakes he, in spite of, or even maybe even because of the mistakes he made. But like Pritchard is just like, come on,
Well,
get him off the floor.
And it's, I think there was no level of expectation with Tijon.
Maybe.
I mean, I think part of it was that Pritchard was actually recruited. I'm not trying to be mean to Tijon, but I mean,
Yeah. But Pritchard was recruited as a guy who was supposed to play this year.
Yeah, but the problem was that then he wasn't. I mean, the overwhelming, the overwhelming memory of Pritchard is of a guy who was a star on a really bad team his first year.
Yes. We should probably stop. As always, thanks for watching. We'll be back on Tuesday, as the Hoosiers will be back on Tuesday to play mighty North Carolina Central. Thanks for watching.